So this is something goofy, and I just wanted to give some commentary on it. But I want to be careful because these are real people, and people in the same place where I live. This is from the Collegian, and the headline is, "You get to take the black off. Hundreds denounce blackface photo." So apparently, a few weeks ago, some of the students affiliated with the college had a photo in blackface. And this made people upset. And I understand why they're upset. But then it enters into this realm, naturally, of power. Power. So the existence of this photo definitely means that we live in a oppressive, supremacist society. It doesn't mean that these guys were, I don't know, I'm not going to even say that they're idiots. They did something certainly in poor taste. And they don't know how to use social media. Or at least they used it irresponsibly. Who is this guy? I've never seen one of them before. Nice horns. He's like a lizard antelope person. Anyway, blackface. Yeah, I don't see a single person here in Star Trek land in blackface. So in the future, it's not a problem. So that's encouraging. Not even this guy. But if that were to happen, if I were to go into this office here and just walk up to the desk and look up and be like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this? I know I'm trying to make a joke of it. It's a serious thing. However, the reason I get kind of flippant is because people play it out. And I'll give you some examples as I kind of get into this article here. I'm going to start strolling this way. So, I'm going to go off of this. Senate session, September 18th. A discussion of a blackface image that has been circulating on social media recently. The Senate session was moved to the North Ballroom to accommodate for an unusually large crowd size. Yeah, it's a goddamn spectacle. Quite a spectacle. And now we have the university president, Joyce McConnell. She says she hopes for a historic evening for the campus. Quote, "It's very important that we hear the people who want to go to the mic and tell us their thoughts, experiences, and their perspectives. This is an opportunity for students to come together and to hear from one another. I know there's a very deep pain and deep anger, and I recognize it." And then a student says, "As people of color, we are tired of the lack of accountability and the lack of support. We are upset because it's your privilege that gives you the chance to have your voice heard and your mistakes justified. You have had your multiple platforms given to you by your privilege." So that is a denunciation of a black person, assuming the state of all black people and denouncing all white people. And just saying that's how it is. You have your platforms because of your privilege. And that's an unfalsifiable narrative, because it's just... Well, anyway, I'll just continue. Proposed for students involved with the photo to be enrolled in an educational class regarding the principles of community, the code of conduct, and the awareness of identities. Awareness of identities. So, I'm gonna reread parts of that one. Principles of community, code of conduct, and awareness of identities. So we're not talking about real identities, and we're not talking about real principles, I'm going to assume. We're talking about the punch up, punch down kind, the social justice kind, the ones that you dispense with based on power dynamics. They're not really principles. They're just the semblance of principles so that you can achieve your aims. Because if she was making a principled argument, I would be all ears. But when you start and you're just saying, well, you have this because of your blah, 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 I'm just like, I'm done. I'm already done. And, I understand you're upset. And the tragedy is, I'm sure that you have several points. And I'm sure those are legitimate. But when you frame it in this cockamamie social justice thing, I just can't hear you. Because it's just very vehement and abrasive. And I just have to sit there. That's the expectation. Sit there and listen. because you've had your say, presumably because of your innate characteristics, and I'm going to assume, I'm going to project on you all the things that I know you're thinking. You're just dog whistling. You never mean what you're actually saying. But me, if I say anything, give me the benefit of the doubt, because, oppression and all of that. But yes, we move to the next page. There's all kinds of images. There's very stable, well-meaning people, nearly in fisticuffs. They're yelling at each other. There's a person with a sign that is misspelled. I feel like I have mixed feelings about this one because she looks like a fool holding up that sign, but then again, she's the one that opted to hold up a sign. It says, "People of color deserve to be here," and it's spelled wrong. It's H-E-A-R. I think you meant H-E-R-E. So you deserve to be at a college, but your grasp of, I don't want to be too mean, but I think you get my point with that one. She continues, "Why must we always sacrifice our education and sleep to be activists? We carry such a heavy burden," all caps. Yes, I know you are just such martyrs, and you're so selfless. You're not at all self-interested. Not at all. So I feel somewhat sympathetic because these people have just been very, I'm sure they have real problems, but it's just being taken in by this ideology that I don't think really cares for them as people. Because everything that this, I'm just going to double down on this. I feel like it cheapens everything. It doesn't represent anything. So you can use just this power dynamic thing. It's just like, what happens when you get into power? Does the philosophy change? Does it suddenly become different, or is it just this ever-revolving wheel of people that are in positions of power and people that are oppressed? We'll weight the scales accordingly. Because I think, that's just an unfortunate circumstance. And I'm going to get to the word activist. Because a person that is an activist must be a great person. I'm going to get off the article now. That's all I wanted to say about that article. I'm just looking at some of the stop protecting the privileged, and there's a person, they said they're celebrating the Accountability for Hate Speech Against Students bill passing, which is a little ordinance they passed on campus. I don't know what that entails, but it sounds like nonsense to me. Sounds like trouble, honestly. Against accountability for hate speech. Now again, if somebody says something that is explicitly hateful, it only is deemed hate based on power dynamics, not on what objectively is hate, because again, if you are talking about objectivity and truth, you are just a hopelessly, woefully naive person. Don't you know? Don't you know? Everything is just encapsulations of power. But anyway, activists. My opinion, I'm going to stroll around here a little bit more, and I'm going to take a sip of my beverage. I wonder how many of these people consider themselves activists. They're like, nope, I just do my job. I'll be like, respect. Sweet. Like, if you are an activist, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but here's my little rule of thumb. If you are an activist / something, usually that suggests to me that you are neglecting your actual job and you are putting on airs and you are being useless. Now, that might sound a little too harsh, but let me explain. If you are a journalist / activist, basically all you're announcing to the world is that you don't have journalistic integrity and principles, because you don't need them, because you're not accountable to that kind of structure. But you want to benefit from the assumption that you have scruples, so you call yourself a journalist. But at the same time, you're an activist, which suggests you don't really have scruples, because nowadays, activist means social justice warrior, means person that's, fighting for the cause, Saul Alinsky, anything goes. There's some Ernest Hemingway quote from back in the day where he said something about being a socialist and just coming to love the lies, because everything is approved in the name of the cause. It's not about, I don't want to mess this up and I don't want to give anybody a bad name because, we have a reputation to uphold or anything. No, not really. It's, all means, by any means necessary. And it kind of just reflects in this sense of activism. So if you're a lawyer activist, if you are a journalist activist, if you are I don't know. This is what scares me, because in this country, I live in the United States, we have a separation of church and state. And I feel like if we had priests everywhere just sitting on boards and just holding people to account of their moral, just judging people like that, people would not abide that. People would be like, get out of here and just let us run our affairs, and you run your affairs, and we'll see who does what. And so yeah, but the problem is that when you are an activist, I think these people are essentially priests of a cult that doesn't make any sense, and that is very aggressive. And I feel like I, at this point, here's the thing. They're always trying to censor people. I don't want to censor you. I think you should be able to air your terrible ideas as much as you want, and then people will just go, wow, those are terrible ideas. I wonder why they don't gain any traction. I wonder why you have to always use coercion and force and make people terrified and make them feel guilty, because you don't have anything actually convincing to say. There's nothing edifying in what you say, because there is no edifice. It's all just negative. And nice-sounding words, a coating of nice-sounding words. Like, we're being inclusive, and we have, our variety of principles that you should now adhere to. But anyway, yeah, I feel like at some point I need, the same way that the government protects us in a way from influence of religion. There's no compulsion in religion, because there's a separation of church and state. I want that from this secular cult that is social justice, and they are intent. It is part of their philosophy to get institutional power. We are marching through the institutions. And at some point, we need to take them at their word and just say, okay, well, how about you don't get influence in HR? You don't get influence in the private sphere unless people select for that. Like, if you're a corporation and you want to bring this cult and run yourself into the ground, go woke, get woke and go broke, you're more than welcome to. Go ahead. But I feel like the intent is just to have these fake pacifists gain institutional power and then force us to adopt their values and simulate the things that they want us to. And it's always changing, which gets me along to another point. The language is always changing, and there's no graciousness in this. It's always vindictive. So I look at older people, and they're like, I thought racism, the whole attitude was, I don't see color. But now people are telling me that if I say that, that just means that I'm a racist. And so you get to be disrespectful to people who had these norms for like 30, 40 years since the civil rights movement in the 60s, and they're like, well, I thought that's what it was. And then you get to be like, no, you're racist, and you're old, and you're obsolete. We are the future. And it's just, it's so reprehensible, and it's evil. And you're saying, well, I don't know. I find that very discouraging, because then you have people that just, as they get older, they lose their plasticity. They can't adapt to your nonsense as fast as you produce it. And so, I don't know. I don't want to. You saw that in China during the Cultural Revolution, and they just picked out people that had the wrong values or the wrong appearance often, and a lot of them were older people, and they're like, "You are a relic," and blah 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 blah, and it's just attack, attack, attack. So, yeah, I don't see this as a system of belief that is going to have that benefit that is in most traditional cultures, where you revere and honor your elders, and you treat them with respect, and you show them deference. But in this one, they are just tools, they're just cogs in the oppressive machine, and you are the one who has to educate them, because you are enlightened, and they are just caught up in this evil, archaic, oppressive entity. It's all very angsty, which is perfect for young people and their angst. So that's what's very insidious about this. It's just marketing angst and just nonsense and taking advantage of young people, which is why I say, if you're a young person and you're into this stuff, I think you're mistaken, I forgive you. If you're in your 30s and 40s, or you're an adjunct at some university or something like that, and you are a proponent of this, I have resentful feelings towards you, because I feel like, despite all of your good intentions, you are very plainly preying on the sensibilities of young people who are hopefully wise enough to see through your horseshit. I don't think you should have the influence that you have. And I think that the university itself is starting to lose its semblance of authority because of this stuff. But yeah, I'm going to go check in with these duty officer people over here, back to the game, and see if I can get some more duty officers. I think it's still on cooldown, but we'll see. Yeah. Yep. No, I didn't mean to do that. I press B to move back in the menu and it makes me throw this punch. I'm not upset at you. I just accidentally just jabbed you right in the nose. Sorry. The violence. See, I holstered my weapon. I didn't mean to throw a punch. I just hit this little circle button. I keep calling it B because I'm used to Xbox. Anyway, video game stuff. So I'm gonna take a little screen cap here. This is the screen cap for this rant, and we're gonna overlook the bridge, and there's shuttles in the air.